All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is the second session of Change My Mind series. Today, we're going to talk about forecasting. Mastering FinOps forecasting, cloud cost is predictable. We are affirming that, and we want to
You are
tell.
doing that.
I am okay. All right. So, well, we will talk very thoroughly about this topic, and hopefully everybody enjoy. Together with me, I have Frank Contrepois from the FinOps guy. Did my French sounds okay, Frank?
Yeah, it did sound okay. It did sound
Yeah.
okay. Go for it.
All right. And I also have Erik Norman from Caligo Cloud. All the two, big minds in the FinOps sphere. And I'm thrilled to be hosting this call and also, who knows, provide as well my inputs in this discussion. Again, thanks everyone for joining. This meeting is being recorded, and we will be sharing the recording lately, so you can take a look later or share with your friends. So, what are we going to be discussing today? The questions we will discuss. We will talk about what is forecasting, trying to delineate the universe that we're going to be attacking. Why do we need forecasting anyway? Forecasting techniques, we will tackle a little bit on that. What makes a good forecasting at the end? Pitfalls to avoid or to be aware of, at least for or in terms of forecasting. All right. So sit, relax, and enjoy this conversation. Just at the end, we're going to have as well a session for Q&A. But if you have any burning questions, just let us know, or just raise your voice, or put the question on the chat. We will be monitoring that time to time. So without further ado, the way that we're going to be doing this is like this. We have the topic, what and why forecasting, and we will allow each one of our invitees here to talk a little bit about that. So let's hear their perspectives on that, and eventually have some discussions as well. All right. So the first that I invite to provide his inputs in this is Frank.
There we
So,
go.
Frank, on your perspective, what and why forecasting?
Oh, well, I think I've put that picture also because I did a talk quite a long time ago. And I think it's important that I'm going to set the scene. This is really, it's a short story. Most of my things are story. And it is more to make you understand what this is important, but at the same time, the first rule of forecasting. So the story is about, and it's Frank's placeholder. I think we've left that at the top, which is wrong. But the idea is that it's a story about the window, the weather, the fool, and the phone, and the fool being me. And the idea is that you do two wrong things. So first of all, you wake up in the morning, everything's dark in the house, and you take your phone. First thing you do. That plain wrong, but that's what I did. I look at my phone, look at the weather, and the weather tells me, brilliant. And I'm so happy. It's a great day. I'm in London, so it's not always the case. And I get ready, all the stuff you want, and then I look through the window, smart thing, first smart thing of the day, and it's raining. But the idea is that, so the weather forecast was wrong. And the weather forecast uses the best computers in the world. They have the model we've been studying for 5,000 years, and it's still regularly wrong. So the first rule of forecasting is that it's hard. I would say that there is no second rule of forecasting, really. But as Anderson wanted me to highlight also, is that the weather is one of the harder things to predict. And so don't worry, cloud is easier. But I want to highlight that, yes, it is hard. And Anderson, I don't see my notes underneath. Where are my notes?
Oh, so you want me to go out from...
No, don't worry. I'll find them on my own. But the idea, the one.
No,
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do that. Here it is.
Don't worry, because I thought about these things. I prepared for this webinar. And I put things, but yeah, and that's why
Share normally, please. Share normally.
yeah, no, please show normally. That's fine. That's fine.
Yep.
I just wanted to highlight. So yeah, the first thing is that forecasting is the closest thing we have to astrology, in my opinion, and we need it because it is used everywhere in a company in particular. If you are in a company, your CEO is making forecasts and is presenting them to shareholders. You are making forecasts continuously. Everyone's making forecasts and it trickled down. It's important to do forecasts because almost no one cares exactly about how things are going now. Everyone wants to know how they're going to go later. And this is in particularly important for anyone who is managing money. They understand today, but they want to understand next. And I think that's that's why we forecast. And a forecast as a what is an aspiration, is your estimate. It's an estimation based, if you are starting on hope, and if you are getting better on it, maybe on data and conversations. I'll leave it to Erik, I think.
Yeah, I'll start with a quote actually before we switch to the next screen. I think it was Peter Ustinov who says, "I love science fiction, and with that I mean the weather forecast." So,
yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, but okay, I'll not tell you the mathematical definition of what a forecast is. I will explain it like this. Imagine you get a very high invoice. The cloud bill is very high. You get like a heart attack. So I see the forecast as diluting the effect of this bill to such an extent so that the intensity is manageable. Okay? So basically, you're going to pay that, okay? But you know it so much more in advance that you are prepared for it. Okay? So it's a mild attack over long prolonged time, so it's basically harmless. And if you extend the forecast even further, it gives you time to take action and maybe to prevent it or do something about it, right? So in that sense, yeah, for me, it's like the prolonged heart attack. That's my favorite metaphor when it comes to forecasting, to explain what it is and what we're doing. And for any different industry and sector, they need to do forecasting differently.
Yes.
And again, turning back to the weather forecast example, there is a huge, huge difference in the cloud. And that is, there are events that we can predict because we can tie it in to something that is going to happen that we already know about. With the weather, we don't know what's going to happen. We just take the current situation and the past and project it forwards. So that's a huge difference. We know what the company should be doing, will be doing, and what the cloud providers have announced. That is our huge advantage over our friends in the weather forecast.
Agreed. And I would say that there are tons of assumptions in a forecast, and that's the bit we can do and document, which is almost impossible to do in weather.
Exactly. No, very good point. Very well said, Frank. Very well said, Erik. Let me give my contributions to that as well. So in my perspective, and this was not written with using AI, by the way, I just used my brain to put this in here. So in my perspective, the forecasting is an organizational process of recurringly and consistently determining the future spend. And the reason this is done is that organizations need to set the expectations with customers, investors, and other stakeholders. They need to check the feasibility of meeting commitments, funds reservation / fiscal budgeting. And last but not least, there are other things, but assessing the potential for reservations and commitments. It's interesting to have that in mind. Maybe for us as FinOps practitioners, this is clear, But it's come to my experience that when we talk with engineering, with engineers, with people that are more into the details of their technical things, they say this pretty much as a bureaucratic or maybe a nonsense exercise, especially because in the past, or not too much long time ago, on the capex world, where you have your machines, you have all your technology out there available, you just need to bother about coding. And now this is the way it is. We need to care about how much we're going to be spending, and the engineering and the product teams are the ones that are spinning up resources, and those resources are the ones that are generating costs. And as they are the primary source of cost, we need to get their input of how much they're going to be spending, that is translated by usage of the resources they're spinning up. So just wanted to provide this perspective, not that nobody here knows what is this or why this is done, but also this perspective that there are people that probably don't understand, or it's not clearly stated for them why this exercise is so important.
And I wanted to add one thing, that you highlighted the forecasting, and lots of people will consider that it is about money, and it is about money, especially in FinOps. It's most of the time it is about money. But forecasting as an exercise can be done. You forecast what's going to happen next. You go to brainstorming session to forecast what is going to happen, so you can change your strategy. There is a book which is called Super Forecasters, for example, and it is about people that will forecast events. Is this gonna happen? So what I'm saying is the methodology you create, or the methodology of forecasting that you will learn or you will discover, usually don't limit them to one area. They are extremely useful in a vast area of they can be applied in a lot of areas. That's the other.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is that the word forecasting can be interpreted in two ways. One is the act of forecasting using tools and techniques, and the other is a business process that is called forecasting. All right, so we have these two different things going on at the same time. Great. I think that as we have settled the foundation of the discussion, I think that we're ready to move to the next section. Let's talk a little bit about forecasting techniques.
There we go.
There you go, Frank, it's all yours.
Well, yes, so perfect. So this is a slide coming from a presentation of forecasting I did quite a while ago. The first thing is that context is everything. So the forecast you're going to do is not just based on data. It needs to include what's happening in the company. As Erik was saying, there might be something in the future. There might be some element of the past, but you need context. The way I would recommend to do forecasting is you use the past data as a fact. It's a fact. It's past. But I don't think you can use it to predict the future very well. But what you can really use it for is to do math on it. You can extract your unit economics from that. How much is a customer costing me? How much is a transaction costing me in cloud? So that when the business model or the yearly plan that the CEO has announced that tells you that we're going to increase by 20% the number of customers, you're going to be able all of a sudden to adapt your forecast. Thanks to those unit economics and this past data, you're going to be able to measure the impact on you. And so as soon as you start being able to justify your predictions with something that is at the business level, you're going to increase enormously the understanding, and you're also going to increase enormously, hopefully, the accuracy. If the prediction of the CEO of the company are the one that are going to happen, you should be reasonably right. The other thing which you might not know is the wisdom of the crowd. There is a Wikipedia page about it, but the idea is that if you put all the people that are involved into it, or involved in our case in the cloud spend, And that means really everyone that you can find. It's not just engineers, not just finance, it's everyone, procurement, executive, etc. All those personas. And you ask them how to do a forecast, but really finger in the air, and you take the average of all of that. It's proven, that it is usually correct. It's quite close to reality. And so if you see that your initial forecast is vastly different from the wisdom of the crowd, there is probably something to investigate there. And I think it was you, Anderson, you were telling that at a holiday, they were showing a jar full of beans, of marbles or whatever, and asking people to guess the number, and that if you were, someone would win, but if you were taking the numbers of everyone, doing an average, you would get probably the winner. You would get the best average.
And you know, I didn't know about this wisdom of the crowd when I witnessed that with my eyes. It was we were somewhere with the kids, and they have a jar of this size full of beans, and they asked kind of 100 people to guess how much beans there were there. And when they, at the end of the day, when they took the average, the result was pretty close to the exact number of beans that there were in there. I was two things that came to my mind. Wow, how could that happen? And second, who was the one that was counting this 1,000 beans that were there on that jar?
It must have been a bean counter.
Exactly. So we are the wisdom of the crowd, so for validation. But then the thing that changes in the cloud is that whatever number you're giving, it might change. Something will change, and that change will have an impact on your cloud cost. The usual example is marketing's done a launch campaign. It went extremely well. All of a sudden, you have tons of new customers, or you have tons of new transactions, or you have tons of new visits on the website. So those are going to be changes, and they are going to be shifts. And so when a shift happens, that's when you want to update your finance. I think that moving to the cloud means that you're going to have way more interaction with whoever is asking you for forecasts, because you can give an accurate value as of now. And you say, at the moment, if nothing changes, my forecast for the next end of month, 1 month, 3 months, whatever, is going to be that number. And then something happens, and you go back to the people and say, look, as this has changed, the new forecast is. So be ready to talk, to build bridges with the people asking the forecast, and they're going to be very happy to see you often, but with a good driver. So they will never have to ask, why did you miss it? And I think that all these things together are what I would call a cloud FinOps forecasting, something that will force you to do your calculate, check the data, do your math, talk with human beings, and keep them in the loop.
Exactly. Well said, Frank.
Yoo-hoo!
So what about you, Erik? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I have a very similar approach to what Frank is describing. The only thing that I do as on purpose, almost like it was its own framework, is I do it modularly. So Frank mentioned the importance of the context. And if we now break down the forecast for an IT department or for a company into teams, units, whatever it becomes, then each of these will have their own specifics, their own criteria, their own cost drivers, their own type of unforeseen events, okay, that make the forecast different for each of these sections. So I love to use, I call it modular forecasting. I don't know if it's a word or anything. I use that word, and anyone tries to basically understands it with this. And that means start with something, and that's how I do it, like an approach. If you're starting out, start with the simplest fallback formula you can have, and that is the projection of the past, okay? Then you start breaking up by cost centers. Hopefully your company has more than one cost center, but it can also happen that you have a $15 million spend on one cost center, but then you break it out by teams, workloads, applications, and other cost allocation tags that you might have. And for each of them, you replace it again with a fallback formula. So you just can verify that you're splitting and the pipeline doesn't break because you're splitting. Okay, so if you split up by sections first without changing the formula, the result must stay the same. That is the first verification that you have, and your forecast is still intact. Okay, and then since that is working and you have the process defined for yourself, then you really start decomposing into self-contained modules. Okay, and for each of them, as I announced already, is like you check what you can get for data. So you reach out to stakeholders, get business information and others, and analyze what kind of forecast it is. Okay, operations teams run differently than development teams, run differently than testing and QA teams and stuff like that. So there are different cost drivers, and you need to take that into account. You can maybe categorize them and then make it easier for the next similar team to be forecasted, stuff like that. And basically, yeah, it's almost like divide and conquer, but in this kind, it's expand and divide. So you add more subsections, and for each of them, you add more depth and also more cost drivers as you go along, and you refine your model, and it's iteratively, it's infinite. Basically, you will never end this. Basically, it's when the ROI starts diminishing, that's when you end, but then you're already in the end game of forecasting.
Yeah, one question that I always get, Erik, on the third bullet or phrase that you had there, the question that I always get is like, what is the right frequency and what is the right granularity? So what do you have to say about that?
Well, that depends on who is consuming the forecast. I mean, try sending an hourly update on your forecast to an executive, and you will see how nice it is to be laid off. So, you know what I mean? So it will depend on the context. And also, I would say that the closer you get to cloud consumers, as in operations teams or development teams, they typically prefer more frequent updates. Okay, maybe even a dashboard they can consult themselves that's auto-updating. While other teams, like finance teams, prefer to have, I don't know, maybe weekly, monthly meetings or stuff like that. And they only want an update. If there is an update on the forecast, if there is a change, maybe they want something, and they won't even see the old number over and over again. So it really depends on who is consuming the forecast. So what I try to do when I do this is I make it available to anyone so they can consult it at the pace they want.
And I think it's interesting to remember that everyone consumes differently, as Erik says. So, for example, engineers would like to have a dashboard. I can tell you at an executive level, no one wants a dashboard, yet another dashboard. You just want, give me a report, tell me what is good, write, if possible, in words, what's happening, what I should look for. Because when you just drop a dashboard with thousands of numbers, you look at that and say, so what? And so there is a big difference. Finance will probably want a regular one, but they want the drivers of change. So yeah, the great answer is it depends.
I would also reply back to Frank and use what you just said, and that is the executives want to report. Yes. And that ties into our previous event in this series, where we talked about reporting and that nobody's doing reporting anymore. Because we are all creating dashboards and we sell it as a report. Yes. So what this means also is that if you have a forecast for your executives, you should give it the context in words it requires for anyone to understand what you're saying or what the numbers are saying. And maybe also even pre-digest it a little bit so they can understand what they should think about it. Yep. Okay. And that's a report. That is also why we get paid as practitioners to actually create a report and not just use an off-the-shelf dashboard and send it out on Slack.
Right. Great insights. Let me give a little bit of mine as well. I put here a couple of slides, a few slides about it.
And it's
Yeah,
at
go
one
ahead,
point,
Frank.
no, it's not go ahead, but when you're done, I would like to, because I completely forgot to talk about the GPS thing, and I think I'd like to say it after when you're done, if possible, as a
Oh
story.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Let's
go now.
yeah. So let me do this one here, and then you can talk. I know the story. I really want to hear about it. I want to provide as well here, still on this technique uh, conversation, a few of them that I use myself. Um, that it's I like to use them. They are producing some results, and I think it would be worth sharing. Using the earned value management, those here from project management might recognize this. This is a very good way to do it. I have a speech from FinOps X Barcelona where I explain how to translate the earned value management to FinOps. But basically, it's saying that the plan value or your budget is based on unit economics. So you budget or you plan ahead on what is the unit economics that you want to have, or that is most likely to have, or that you're aiming for. This has a component of the business result and the cost of that. With this in hand, actual cost will be just a reflection of what you have on your bill or on your reports, and earned value is a calculation on top of how much you have completed. With these elements, you can take a bunch of other KPIs and indicators, and one of them is related to the forecasting, things that are going to be happening in the future. So it's a kind of forecasting based on unit economics. This one approach that I like a lot to use. The other one is more statistical. If
Give
you have,
me, yeah, can you go back one slide? Because I really like
sure.
this one. And I remember the earned value and the earned value, but I think it's very interesting because that's probably a methodology that already exists that talks explicitly about value and defines value very well. So the
Mhm.
question could be, so while it defined the value as an advancement and the number of hours in a project, it would be really interesting to understand, maybe on another conference, but how how can we apply this methodology, as you've said? I would love to hear it again, potentially, how we apply this methodology to cloud, giving us a real value, a way to measure value. Because honestly, in IT, we still don't know. In cloud, same. We want to increase value, but there is always a thing of, are we creating value? And that is in IT still not defined. So I love the idea of using earned value.
Yeah, I will share later
Yes,
I
please.
have a blog post where I detail the entire uh, um, technique from a FinOps perspective.
Go
But
for it. I'm gonna love that.
yeah, but in a nutshell, my perspective is like the value you're looking for equal is similar or pretty much the same as the unit economics that you have. So the value equals to unit economics. And from
Okay.
there, you derive everything else. Um, of course, I need to double click on this, and probably this is going to generate lots of discussion, but pretty much this is value is a relation, is a function of your unit economics.
Thank you, Peter, for the comment in the chat.
Great. The other one is using statistical tools. In Power BI, you have a built-in functionality. If you have focus data set into your Power BI, by using effective cost, for example, I think is the most appropriate one for forecasting. You can turn it on and boom, it generates for you the forecasting and the band from which this could vary throughout the time. So, but there is a flip side of this, is that you're not able to isolate these numbers and put this in boxes and other reports. So I try to reproduce this in another technique that is, it's calculated in Power BI as well. That is pretty much, you take the effective cost. So from this graph, you extract the trend, if it's up and down. You extract the seasonality of that. You see that this one is going upwards slightly, but this one takes what is the seasonality of that signal, let's say. So when you sum up this one plus this one, you have the forecast that is exactly the same technique that Power BI use internally. The good thing is that this becomes a measure, and with this measure, you can do everything else that you want. You can create a boxes and the panels and other reports and things like that. You have the data extracted in a measurement, and through that measurement, you are free to do everything that Power BI can do. So that's another way of doing forecasting. But of course, great comment here in the sense that this is not the entire forecast. It's just one tool that you use in order to produce this. This will gonna work pretty well when you have a stable workload. But of course, this is not able to predict if someone going to put a new functionality out there, and then this cost will double. So just take that in consideration.
There is a question from Peter. What does seasonality mean?
Seasonality means is how much your data vary according to the time. For example, say if we take sales, you imagine that sales normally goes up during during Christmas. So you have this amount of sales, and then on Christmas it goes up, and then probably things go down. So what is the season where you have the ups and downs of the things that you're measuring? So this one is saying that in this interval, we have this interval of going up and down on the effective cost. So you see, you can predict the variation, but not the trend. The trend is if it goes up and down, but here's how much this, the degree of what this varies throughout the time.
And I will add just, for example, that there are things which are yearly seasonal. That would be the sale of ice cream. They are effectively very high in summer, very low the rest of the time. Or ski resort, they're going to have a heavy seasonality in winter. And so you can have yearly seasonality, you can have monthly seasonality, sometimes you have weekly seasonality. We all know there is almost always a weekly seasonality that is related to on weekends. There is less consumption. So you want your model that does forecasting to take that into account. And usually there is a parameter that says, how do I consider seasonality? And you say, hey, this is a very weekly base. If it's standard cloud, it's going to be weekly based. Or you can say, my data is big, it's going to be yearly based. And the system will try to infer most of the time where is the seasonality and replicate that, because it's just normal behavior that ice cream are sold in summer way more. And so that should be seen in every forecast. Does that answer the question, Peter? If you want to write on the chat or answer.
Yeah, if I can also add to that, if we take for a virtual machine on the development environment, this probably going to be used from 9 to 5, and then it will be turned off during the night. So the seasonality during the days that it's going to be used during the day, and then we will not use that much during the night. So this will go up and down in a daily basis, for example. So that would be also considered a way on how seasonality is applied in a workload.
So yeah, and very often models are forecast. So he's showing a good one. I've used that. We'll ask you, we'll have a parameter to tell you in the data you're showing me, how many seasonality are they? And so you can parameter your forecast and help it get more accurate. There we go. We've got Bruce saying that it's Holt Winters forecasting methods,
Yeah.
which I read as hot winters initially, I have to admit, which was quite funny.
Right. And let me run through the last one real quick as we are almost running out of time. Recurring monthly forecasting is a simple way of standardizing or making as a process in our organization where we're setting how we are getting feedback from the teams. For example, we have a teams. We want to break this down by provider and for service category. We as FinOps practitioner provide them the actuals and have them populating how much they think it will cost or that they're going to have as cost on the future months. All right. And this number can be pre-populated based on the techniques that I just showed, or simply a blank field so they can populate and use their own ways of calculating. It doesn't matter. It's just then putting this together. This works very well when you have a large corporation with many teams. You almost lose sight because there are lots of people going or working on that. That's a good way for you to standardize the way that you get feedback from the teams and put this easily in a database and calculate the forecast. Split it. You can go easy, like just by teams, or you can break it down either further. My recommendation is to use the focus fields in order to make this standard so that you can stack on top of the other the cost from multiple clouds if it's the environment that you have. Okay, folks, we're almost there. We have just 2 topics to talk about. What makes a good forecasting? And then we will go to the pitfalls. So, Frank, in your opinion, what makes a good forecasting?
You are muted.
I am brilliantly muted. Thank you. But yeah, I wanted to keep it short and simple, this one. Yes, sorry, I need to talk about the GPS too, I know. So, but overall it is, we need to have clear assumptions because all your forecasts are going to be a guess. And so that guess needs to be backed by assumptions always. And that's going to go into this GPS discussion. You need to have regular updates. And it's not, I would recommend you not to be a number to match, but a number to reach or an interval. So it's like when you go to investments, it is, that company did better than the forecast. So there is a line, which is the forecast, and they've done better than that. They have a range from that value, which is the minimum to above. In our case, I think a forecast could tell you this is what we are not expecting to spend more than that or less than that is way more useful than trying to pinpoint a number and say, we're 5% around that. Things are going to change. As we said, if you cannot go regularly to update things, you'd be better using that range. And if I go fast into this GPS story, I do think that as forecast, you need to be like a GPS. And what I mean by that is that if you're like me, you're going to go on a holiday with a family. It's brilliant. You put yourself in the car, you put your destination on the GPS, and the GPS will make tons of assumptions. The road you're going to go for, the speed you're going to go at, the traffic you're going to see, all the things. And it's going to give you a forecast of arrival. So you're going to arrive to your destination at 11:43. Okay, it's extremely precise. But then if you're like me, your family, something's going to happen. You have the beautiful panorama where you need to take the family selfie, all this kind of stuff, food, whatever. You go back, you do that, and you go back into your car. And your GPS is not going to scream at you that now you've destroyed the forecast and you're wrong. What the GPS is going to do is going to recalculate with the value of now. And the fact is that you're fine with the GPS being wrong before in some formal way and correct now because you know why. And that's why I invite you to be like a GPS, update the people when things change, explain it. And yeah, I think that's an analogy that works.
It works very well. I like the idea that my GPS doesn't shout at me when I don't
I think that's a software upgrade we should recommend.
Exactly. No, great analogy. What do you have to say about that topic, Erik?
Yeah, I will provide it as a formula, actually 3 formulas for the forecasting score, how good a forecast is. And they're not very precise in a mathematical way, but they come from experience. So the accuracy that you get for your forecast is 100% minus the impact we could not foresee. I mean, let's imagine like if some politician applied tariffs, removed the tariff, applied the tariff, almost like Karate Kid and the wax, right? So that is unforeseen, difficult, but yeah, that's an impact on your accuracy, and that's normal. So the forecast should catch that. That's the impact you want to catch. And then depends on how urgent you need to make it. If the boss says by Friday I need a forecast, then yeah, that will impact your accuracy. Then the thing is, the stakeholders hold the information that you need for your accuracy. So the consumer of forecast typically know more than the producer of the forecast. So I factor in the resistance of them. And then also I call it cost model absurdity, because if you have one single cost allocation tag for $50 million department and you try to do forecasting on that, then good luck. That will also affect the accuracy. Then I tie in also to what Frank said. Your assumptions must be clear. So the 100% minus the impact of everything you didn't explain. And then also what impacts the score of your forecast is how effing complex it is, okay? So if it's super complex, then it's also difficult to explain, difficult to maintain, might be difficult to verify and stuff like that. And also if you have gaps in the provenance of your data, that also affects the score of forecast. And last but not least, the jargon overload. If you use words that the consumer does not understand, then also that's not a good forecast for you. The last one I would say is about the relevance. Let's say that they ask you to forecast the cloud costs, but you instead forecast how many interns are going to get fired within 3 weeks. So you need to answer the questions you're asked with the forecast. The first one is the impact of the drift away from the topic. Stay on the topic for each forecast. That's the first impact on how good your forecast is. Then you also have the timeliness, okay? If your forecast uses data from 5 years ago, it might not be that good, obviously. And also the context fit. Don't use weather forecasting techniques for operations teams and the same technique for development teams. The context fit must be good, okay? That impacts the score. And the granularity mismatch. If you present it in hourly dates, if the exec wants yearly forecast for their cloud spend, then the numbers are wrong. They will read it wrong, and that affects how good your forecast is.
Exactly.
Summarize it, yeah.
Yeah, very good mathematical formulas.
You can use them, take them, screenshot them, but hey, I created them.
We'll put the blame on you, don't worry.
Yes, they're all wrong, so you can attribute them to me.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, this I just want to put here on the screen the something that I found really interesting in the FinOps Foundation site at the cloud cost forecasting. It's a way of stacking all the techniques like the simple forecast, training-based forecast, driver-based forecast, and net new workloads. So all of them stacking together will make your forecast even better, in a sense that it will take into consideration things that are strong in each one of the layers. So I will not go through the entire steps by step here for the lack of a time, but feel free to go to this link here or just search by cloud cost forecasting in Google FinOps, and then you will find it. So going to the final section, and then we go to the Q&A, pitfalls of forecasting. All right, if there are pitfalls on this area, and I'm sure there is, Frank, which ones do you think we should avoid?
I'm gonna put my top 3. So you try to do it everything alone, and I think that goes with Erik. Usually, people that try to do it all alone, they're gonna create a very complicated model, and that model is gonna be extremely sensitive. You change one value at the input, and everything explodes at the output. I also want to highlight believing the hype or the tool blindly. As we said, it's all based on context. That is something that the tool or any tool or automated methods will not know about. So you need to be able to review your forecast. They're extremely useful to build something at the beginning, and then you need to work on your data to make them realistic. The third and last one in this case, it's hope for the best. Just hoping for the best by throwing a number, or it doesn't work. It works in one condition. When you are doing the forecast for an SAP system, it's stable. So you don't really need a forecast. But you can hope for the best that it's probably going to be correct. Anything else, you will need to work.
Yeah. Hope for the best would be similar as well as, put your head in a hole and just expect nothing gonna hit you.
Yep.
Right. And what about you, Erik? What do you think are the pitfalls?
Well, I have a couple of problems here that I highlighted in this forecast that is using, on purpose, I'm using daily costs that are perfectly the same through the months. And I just multiplied them by the days per month. So what you get is you have a good February, and then you have a horrible March, and then you have a good April, horrible May. So you get basically every other month you get a heart attack, and every other month then you're happy about the trends that is so good. And I've seen so many dashboards with forecasting and trends that up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's basically worthless. It even renders your forecasting ridiculous, because you put white noise on everything. You don't know how, because the thing is, you want to know how. One is, okay, how much are you going to spend? But that is typically interesting for the few people that are actually working on the finance and the budgeting for it. Okay, they want to know if they stay within budget. Others that are more in operations, they want to know, are we performing well or bad? Do we need to adjust? So you're proving them with false signals, in both directions, all of the time. So that is something that you need to be very careful about. If you just have a slash of monthly costs up and down, and again, Frank is super right, you should not provide one single number. You should provide ranges, because otherwise, even if you hit the forecast within $1, they will say you were off. You didn't hit it. You missed. By $1, but you missed. So range, perfect. Targets, maybe also good. We should not spend more than is so much better than providing the exact number. So in that sense, yeah, I think this is the most common problem and pitfall that I see in forecasting and the reporting derived from forecasting.
And I want to add, so there is a thing that you, so normally 30 days is 720 hours, 31 days, 744. It shows that I've done way too many of these. But if you take 360 days and 24 hours each, and you divide by 12, so you get an average of 730 hours. And you will see that lots of things in AWS in particular are based on a 730 hours month. And so if you are going to do a dashboard or report, make it always 730 hours. Remake it back 730 hours. That's the part I say about you need to do some work.
Or maybe simply have 13 months. each of 4 weeks, and then we have the full year. And every month starts on a Monday. That would be perfect.
Yeah, that's calendars for you.
Right, right. Yeah, my take on this is like, if you're the one in this process that is providing input, don't think it's another bureaucratic exercise, and do the best you can with what you do in the moment. Last but not least, don't over engineer it. You need to do work, but don't get hooked to the analysis paralysis. And if you're the one that is demanding input from others, make it easier for others to provide the input. Keep the same template if you're using any, and train people on how to do forecasting. I'm sure you're going to put together some processes and documentation. Make sure that you're training them constantly and providing them information so you make this process as transparent as possible. All right, we're getting to the end of our session. This is the Q&A moment. It will be great if we can have someone, you know, putting your questions. We love to talk to you. So
while we wait for questions, I would add one more point. So
okay.
It takes months or even years to build a good forecasting pipeline. Okay, don't forget to report on what you're working.
Mm-hmm.
Don't work for a year on forecasting and then ask for feedback. I've done that. I was stupid.
You've done it alone. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it alone. That was why I patted myself on the back before. So I made it this. Actually, it worked. It was quite accurate. But the thing is, I almost got fired because they thought I haven't been doing anything for a year on forecasting. So yeah, build what you have, build a pipeline, get the report, feedback, and all that in almost from day one. Okay, and that's my that's my tip to you.
Right, right.
Any questions? And you can speak. I think you just need to unmute yourself, Maya.
All right.
I don't have a question, but just want to say I really appreciate the conversation and you guys sharing your knowledge. I often feel like a silo, and this alone has like really helped kind of pull me out of a.
Well, contact us, Jodo, or find us somewhere in the Slack chat. There are lots of places you can find us, and we'll be happy to answer your question there. And keeping you out of the silo.
We can also make it like an AA meeting, so you can say, hello, I am Peter, and we say, hello, Peter.
I've been 3 years in FinOps, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Maybe we have time to keep just one more question or comment from anyone.
Oh, we can free them all for 3 minutes of live before your next meeting.
That's also a good idea as well.
There we go.
I just want to thank everyone for coming in here, especially our special guests, Erik and Frank. It was amazing. The preparation time and this presentation as well went very well. I had a lot of fun and learned a lot. I just want to say a final message here. We have this site that I'm investing called learningfinops.com. This webinar was brought here through this, so invite you to go there and visit and take a look. The idea is to be a place where you can learn FinOps anywhere, in any device. So let us know and let's build that together. Other than that, again, Frank, thank you very much. Erik, thank you very much as well. We'll be in touch, everyone, in one of the FinOps corners out there.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.